How you doing? My name is Jamie Bissonnette. I'm the chef at Toro restaurant in Boston, Massachusetts. Here to do a little demo on some of my favorite things in the world, Island Creek oysters. These Island Creek oysters are farm-raised in Duxbury, Massachusetts. They're probably the best oyster I've ever come across. Though I am a purist, I love oysters raw. This is a dish that we've come up with that I really enjoy. It's kind of got a medium rare textured oyster. Sounds gross, but once you make them and try them, they're delicious. So we're gonna escabeche them. It's gonna be kind of like a hot pickle. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna shuck the oysters and we're gonna let them sit in a bowl of ice so they can kind of send out their liquid and we can take off and get any sand or shell out of them. So to shuck an oyster, I go in through the back hinge, push till I feel a little resistance, and then pop the oyster top shell up and a little bit away. Then I flip the knife over and go down to kind of disconnect the shell from the top, hopefully keeping it rather clean. You don't want to burst the belly of an oyster. And then you can see how beautiful this animal is. Then we'll get that off and slide it in. We're going to save our shells. We're going to clean those up and we're going to serve the oysters back in the shells in a couple of minutes. So after about 20 minutes, these oysters have sat. They've kind of pushed out some of their own liquid. You can see little bits of sand and shell. So what we're going to do is kind of gently lift them out, and when we lift them out, we'll take off that abductor muscle. Throw that away. You can kind of feel if there's anything on it, kind of dip it back in there to get any sort of shell or debris off of the oyster. I like to take these abductor muscles off because they get a little bit chewy. Some people find them to be a little bit bitter as well. And then we're going to take the liquor from the oyster and strain it over it. Oysters, after they're shucked, will oftentimes give up more liquid for up to about an hour. So if you ever shuck an oyster at home for friends and it's sitting for a while and it gets kind of dry, let it sit for a little bit longer and it's going to probably put out more liquid again. And you can already see that it's got more liquid. It's kind of mangled. More liquid than what we started with. So again, after about another 20 minutes, we're going to do the same thing again. It's time to pull the oysters out. They're already pretty clean. And we're going to do that one more time. And you can see bits of shell, sand, grime that were in the oysters are now out. And these oysters are very clean, but they're cleaned in their own liquid, so they're not getting diluted. If you clean them in water or wine, you'll get the same texture of the oyster, but you're going to end up losing a little bit of the flavor. So we're going to start our escabeche liquid for that. And what I like to cook these oysters in is grapeseed oil, the cava vinegar, and some cava. Equal parts, 1 to 1 to 1. Now, we're going to bring this liquid up to a boil. As soon as it boils, we're going to add rooibos tea and let it steep for about 10 minutes so the tea flavor gets in there, and it's going to have some vanilla. There's bergamot in this particular tea. We get it from MEM Tea Imports in Somerville. And it's going to give it kind of like a herbaceous, like kind of vanilla flavor. It's going to be really awesome with the Grains of Paradise. And we'll let that cool 10 minutes to infuse, and then we'll pour it over the oysters in ice and then let it naturally cool back down to chilled again, and it'll have a great flavor. So I'm going to do that off stage. Right, so it's been about 10 minutes. Tastes really good. I'm going to add a little bit of sea salt to it. And then strain it hot right over the oysters. And then mix it just to make sure that the oyster liquid and the pickling escabeche liquid become homogeneous and start to cool. And now, while these cool, we're going to make the sauce. Now, for the sauce, we're going to take a little bit of our Godeo. We're going to take a garlic clove. When I use garlic, I like to cut off the stem part, cut it in half, and then take out if there's any green or brown part of the inside. They can get a little bit bitter, and a lot of people, when they say they don't like garlic, it's really the flavor that comes out of there that people don't like. And a little bit of grains of paradise. And we're going to bring this to a simmer and reduce it down so we can make our sauce. All right, well, our sauce, wine is reducing for our sauce. We're going to crack some farm eggs. In the recipe, we said 1 egg. I'm using 2 because they're poulet eggs. They're baby chicken eggs. They're not quite as big. We got these from our friend Farmer T at Round the Bend Farm in South Dartmouth, not too far from Island Creek. And then just double check to make sure there's no shell, which looks like we're pretty good. And we're going to poach these in water with a little salt and a little vinegar like you would for Eggs Benedict for about 3 minutes, just to set it up a little bit, and we'll use that as the base for our warm mayonnaise. So to start, we'll put our eggs into the blender. Some of our liquid, our reduced wine. Some sea salt. If you have a blender with variable speeds, always start on low. That way you don't blow anything out the top. We'll slowly bring it up to medium-high. As that's going pretty quickly, got some canola oil. So we're going to add it in like you're making aioli or hollandaise. About halfway through, we're going to add our saffron. A little Tabasco. Some lemon juice. And then the remainder of our oil. Now we've got a nice kind of warm Tabasco, saffron, aioli, or emulsion. Put some we're going to use now. Now this can stay warm up to about 180 degrees. That's how we use it for service. Very hot. If you make it and you want to reheat it the next day, just put it into a plastic container and put it somewhere warm to gradually get up to heat, or put it in a pot of simmering water at a low simmer to get it hot again, and that'll work. All right, so now we're ready to plate up our oysters. So we've cleaned the shells, got all the debris off of them. They're nice and smooth on the inside. And we want to put them on a plate to have them look nice, but they're going to slide around. So a little trick that we use is we take some salt. If you have a little Tupperware container like this, it works perfect. We add a little bit of water to it. And kind of stir it around so it kind of looks like sand. You can even just put the top back on it and shake it around. This works really well when you're really busy on a Saturday night and you forgot to do this. And you've got wet salt. So now we can take the salt and mound it a little bit bigger than an oyster shell. The key to do this when you're at home or at a restaurant is to make sure that your servers, or you, if you're serving your guests at home, tell the people you're with what it is so they don't eat it, because if they do, they're going to be really pissed. Got some nice mounds. You can make it look as rustic or as pretty as you'd like, but it's going to be tasty. That's all that matters. So from here, we'll take our oysters that are nice and cooled in their liquid. Take them out, get a little bit of the liquid off of them. Still enough that you can see some in the shell. You don't want to have too much of it. And we're going to top it with a little Escabeche chili flake, dried chili from the Basque region of France. Some grains of paradise. It's like a very floral flavored peppercorn. A little bit of our warm Tabasco saffron emulsion. And snipped chives. Give it a little bit of fresh flavor. Fried garlic for a little crunch. And then a little trick, so people like to eat all four of them, they don't share them. They put a little tasty edible flower on top of each one. We've got some pansies, violas, some spicy, peppery arugula flowers. You put a little bit something different on each one. Each one has that just little different flavor. So they don't want to share. They want to see what each one tastes like. And they look pretty. These flowers come from Eva Samaripa, from Eva's Garden in South Dartmouth. She's neighboring farmer to Tea, where we get our eggs, and all very close to where the Island Creek oysters come from. And there we are. Island Creek oyster escabeche with a warm Tabasco saffron emulsion, edible flowers, grains of paradise. That's it.